Welcome to Amplifying Impact, the podcast for leaders who strive to create exceptional experiences, develop high-performing teams, and lead with purpose. I'm Mark Watkins, the founder of Amplifying Impact Events. I bring decades of leadership experience rooted in the hospitality industry. However, because the pursuit of growth, excellence, and meaningful impact is a universal goal, the principles I share apply to leaders across all industries and sectors. Each episode delivers actionable insights and practical tools to help you amplify your impact on your team, customers, and community. You'll get valuable content, enough to make a real difference in your leadership journey. However, the complete transformation awaits you at our live events. Let's get started and amplify your impact together. Welcome to the Amplifying Impact podcast. I'm Mark Watkins, and before we dive into our first episode, I want to take a few minutes to explain why this podcast exists and what you can expect from it. Here's what I've observed after decades in leadership. Most leadership development doesn't actually develop leaders. It informs them and it inspires them temporarily, but it doesn't transform them. People attend conferences and read books and complete training modules, and then they return to their organizations and nothing fundamentally changes. Not because the content was bad, not because they lacked motivation, but because the information without systematic implementation is just noise. Now, many people know me from my time in the Chick-fil-A ecosystem. I spent years in hospitality leadership where I developed proven operational frameworks tested in high-performance environments. And yes, those experiences inform everything I do. But here's what's important. The principles that create exceptional customer experiences, build high-performing teams, and drive consistent organizational results, those principles aren't exclusive to any one industry. They're not Chick-fil-A principles or hospitality principles even. They're leadership principles. They're human principles. And I've worked with organizations across many sectors and industries, and what I've learned is this. When you strip away the industry-specific language, the core challenges are identical. How do you develop leaders who can develop other leaders? How do you build systems that produce consistent results? And how do you create cultures where people actually want to bring their best? The frameworks that I've developed aren't about translating restaurant operations into your business. They're about field-tested systems from high-performance environments and distilling them into universal methodologies that work regardless of your industry. So let me tell you how I think about leadership development, because it's probably different from what you're used to. I don't believe in tips and tricks, and I don't believe in motivational speeches that fade. And I definitely don't believe in generic advice like communicate better or be more innovative. I believe in systems, complete systems that address the full picture of how organizations and leaders actually function. When I develop a methodology, I'm not looking for something clever or catchy. I'm looking for something that works, something that's been proven in real environments with real pressure and real consequences, something that can be taught, implemented, and replicated. And here's the key. These methodologies continue to evolve. As I work with different organizations and industries, as I see what works and what doesn't, these frameworks will develop and deepen. This isn't a fixed catalog of content. It's a living approach to systematic leadership development. There's something else that you need to understand about how I approach this work. I believe that the habits, actions, and systems that you develop while pursuing a goal are often more valuable than achieving the specific goal itself. Think about that for a moment. We're conditioned to focus on hit the number, reach the milestone, complete the objective. But what actually transforms organizations isn't hitting targets. It's the discipline, the systems, and the leadership capabilities that you build in the process of pursuing those targets. And this is why so many organizations plateau. They achieve a goal, celebrate, then they wonder why they can't sustain the level of performance. It's because they focused on the outcome instead of building the underlying systems that produce outcomes consistently. So when you listen to this podcast, yes, we'll talk about goals, results, and performance, but we're always asking a deeper question. What habits, actions, and systems are you building that will serve you long after this quarter, long after this initiative, long after this goal is complete? Here's what you'll get from the Amplifying Impact podcast. This isn't surface level content. Each episode will provide practical implementation guidance on specific aspects of leadership, team development, customer experience, organizational culture, or operational excellence. You'll hear me challenge conventional wisdom, not for the sake of being controversial, but because I've seen what actually works versus what sounds good in theory. When something's broken, I'll tell you it's broken, but more importantly, I'll show you a systematic alternative. But here's what you won't get. You won't get complete methodologies. Each episode will give you deeper insight and implementation guidance than my monthly LinkedIn newsletter. But full transformation happens through a completely different channel, through comprehensive organizational training where we can break through the complete frameworks together. My LinkedIn content introduces field-tested leadership concepts that deliver practical monthly insights. This podcast builds on those foundations, diving deeper into implementation strategies and systematic approaches. For organizations ready to transform how their teams operate and lead, that's where we connect directly to develop comprehensive solutions together. Our episodes will focus on 5 core pillars: building high-performance teams, developing leaders at every level, customer experience and service excellence, organizational culture and change, and business growth and operational excellence. But don't expect a predictable rotation through these topics. I'll focus on what's most relevant, what I'm seeing in organizations I work with, and what challenges need to be addressed right now with systematic solutions. Some episodes will introduce frameworks that you've not heard of before. Others will challenge frameworks you've been using for years. All of them will give you something you can implement while building your understanding of how systematic leadership development actually works. Which brings me to episode 1. We're starting with something bold: ditching SMART goals. If you've built your capacity around quarterly planning using the SMART framework, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound goals, this might be uncomfortable to hear. But I'm going to show you exactly why this framework doesn't deliver what it promises. And I'm going to give you a systematic alternative, and I'm going to introduce you to something that actually drives the habits, actions, and systems to create sustainable performance. So that's what you're getting with the Amplifying Impact podcast: systematic approaches to leadership development, proven frameworks from high-performance environments, translated for universal application, and a commitment to transformation over information. I'm really glad you're here. Let's get to work. This is the Amplifying Impact podcast. I'm Mark Watkins, and I'll see you in episode 1.